the accountability of project managers is a bit less?
No, uh, because the AI is gonna suggest you or probably give you insights about with the data, but the data that is going to be there.
Hey there everyone, welcome to Espresso Minds podcast. We are here to make the future a little less scary with the great conversations we are going to have about AI to VR and everything in between. Let's brew up some great coffee and have some great conversations. Welcome all.
Okay, welcome to an next episode of the Espresso Mind podcast. Today we have two formidable project managers, Cynthia and Ashika, present with us today. So these two are two project management powerhouses renowned with the strategic thinking as well as meticulous planning and commitment to client success. So Cynthia, on one hand, brings deep understanding of PeopleSoft implementations and while also wielding data migrations, etc. While Ashika, on the other hand, commands Workday EPM and utilizing data analysis and resource allocation strategies. Now, I know that's not the perfect introduction to you guys, so welcome to our podcast. And if you can, at the moment.
Thank you. First, thanks for having me here. It's excited to be part of my first podcast, I would say. Yeah. So right now I'm in Bangalore. I have an industry experience of almost 14 years, like you mentioned, predominantly on the PeopleSoft, not just on PeopleSoft, on other ERPs as well, which includes SAP, Cloud Fusion, Zoho, and many more. Project management experiences should be almost 5 to 6, where I have dealt with small and bigger projects. So that's about me.
Ashika, what about you?
So I basically currently work as a Workday Adaptive Planning lead, where my main offering is the EPM module of Workday. So I specialize regarding project management. I've got about almost 2 years experience with it. And so that's me. So fairly new to the workforce, been working since about 5 years now. But yeah, that's about me.
Okay,
Thank you.
So, I mean, before Pramod goes on, the agenda for this podcast is basically to understand about what project management in general is. And with respect to your core expertise, we'll go into basically your tool implementations, some of the challenges that you face and how you actually deal with them as well. So, and also a brief discussion into sort of current technologies that exist that help project managers execute projects, as well as the emerging trends and discussions into sort of other aspects. So with that, I'll let Pramod kick us off with the first question.
Okay, so before we get into deeper aspects of project management, the technologies and stuff, let's just scratch the power of it. So I wanted to ask both Ashika and Cynthia, what do you exactly mean by project management? As if you could explain that in layman terms, so that people who are listening to us, our audience, they understand what exactly is a project management. If a college student is listening to this, they should understand what it is so that they can get into this later on. And also in other people who have just started working also, they should understand what exactly is a project management and what is the role of a project manager. If you could please explain. Ashika, could you please go first?
Yep. Keeping it very simple, project management is the management of a project. So it basically includes tasks which are created by the project manager to achieve a certain desired result. For example, it could be implementation of a tool. So that would be our end result. And we break that down into smaller tasks, which the team work on and we achieve. So as we have more discussions, we'll know about different ways that we can manage a project. But we basically use different methodologies to achieve the desired tasks, and it's restricted within a constraint. We have certain constraints like a budget constraint, timeline constraint, resources constraint. So yeah, it's basically, in simple language, it's managing tasks to achieve a desired result, which we all have like agreed upon, like the client and the developers would have agreed upon that result. And a role of a project manager would be to facilitate and see the entire life cycle of the project and the implementation, if you're taking that as an example, and to manage the team and to manage, and just to have like a health check to see whether everyone's on track to achieve those desired results.
Thank you. Sintana, in your terms?
Yeah. So when I started with this journey of the whole project management, when I really wanted to know what project management is about, I ended up buying a pile of books, or probably read a lot of stories and stuff. So I, since it is a weekend, I will talk in something in a relatable content. So imagine you are planning an movie marathon with your friends. You have to juggle a bunch of things, right from finding a movie that everyone agrees on, making sure that there's enough drinks and popcorn, and setting up the couch, and keeping everyone on track, so that you don't accidentally start the sequel before the first film. So that's kind of what project management is like. But for the actual work stuff, it's basically the art of getting things done, right? That's how Ashika mentioned. A project management manager is like the mastermind behind the scenes, making sure a project like launching a new product or building an app stays on target, within the budget, and finishes on time. So we heard the team, right? We collaborate with the team, keep everyone organized, deal with any unexpected twist that might pop up along the way. That's project management.
Thank you.
Okay, so carrying on with that movie example that you had, right? So planning a movie marathon. So obviously it involves different complexities. For example, it could be like someone enjoying different genre of movies. It could be about location of the theaters, distances of your homes, and these aspects, right? Now, when you look at big projects or projects in IT industry like you guys, you have the complexity is huge. And obviously the human mind is only capable of only so much. So I want to know, like, are there any specific management tools that actually help you as project managers kind of deal with the complexity of these projects? And how do you actually ensure that these are actually implemented within your teams? So maybe Ashika, if you can start us off.
Yeah. So that's right, that we have a lot of complexities in every stage of project management. So even like throughout the life cycle, we have different stages. Within that, you have multiple complexities. But with regards to the tools that we use, the common tools that we have used that I've worked on is Jira and DevOps. So we basically, these two are tools, and I think Jira is a very common tool which most people expect that a project manager should know. So we use these tools to have our tasks, and it has different things that we cater to, such as the due dates, the timeline, the resources working on them. And each of these are also split to have like the different statuses, whether it's at the initial design status, or if it's work in progress, or if it's in testing, or if we've closed it. So we basically split the tasks that we need to achieve using tickets or user stories that we would say in these tools. So I would say the right term would be user stories. So we split them into user stories and feed them into these tools. And that's what we've been using. So yes, and how we incorporate it, well, moving just from the traditional path, right? So before tools, I'm pretty sure like people used Excel files and, just had like the names of the people responsible, the tasks, and that's very tedious. And I think when it comes to change, everyone resists change. So how we incorporate tools is definitely by what we have also seen, and what we do is we tend to first create a change team. and we define the purpose of actually including those tools. So we first want to know why we want to use those PM tools, because you just use Excel and just go on with what you're doing. But we first define why we need to use those tools, because it kind of reduces a lot of admin work and a lot of following up with different people to see where your tasks are. And there's just so much that a human mind can retain. So it's just easier when you put it down. And so we basically create a change team where we have people who are responsible. It's a mix. The change team consists of people who are pro supporters of the tool, and then user groups as well. And so we tend to have a change team, which then slowly helps in the transition to using these tools. And we always do like a demo run with the team. That's what we have done in our organization, where we've had like a demo run of, like, say, DevOps for about 2 weeks, and we've gotten feedback from the users, like the developers, because they'll be developing the tool, right? They'll be developing or helping in the implementation, and they need to fill up their admin work using the tool. So we tend to have like a trial run with them and get their feedback, and we have that retrospective session with them, and we see what they liked about it, what they don't like about it, and then once everyone's on board with it, that's when we deploy it to the larger set of user groups. And that's what we've been following. So in that way, the developers who are the assets of the team also know that, their feedback is important, and we're not just throwing a PM tool at them. So that's how we incorporate changes, where we create a change team, which helps us with the transition.
Thank you. So the way, as you explained before, right, like in traditional way, how we were using Excels, we were using Words and stuff. So my question is to Sinthanam. Do you think with the new trends that we are getting, and as you said, we have Agile, we have waterfall management and stuff. So do you think traditional methods of project management is still relevant? Is it still in use, or the entire industry has moved on to those from Excels to this kind of management? And how are we coping up with it?
Right. So it's basically how we choose what are the metrics that before we choose which methodology, right? Yes, it's still relevant, and it's still popular. The reason is that we have few factors. Okay, the first is size that matters of your project. If it's big and bold for complex projects, a waterfall approach might be the better. And for small and agile, for quick and adaptable projects, we say agile is your bet. Next is the team player check. The next factor, I would say, if you have a collaborative crew, dynamic crew, you can always go for agile. The reason is you have the team which is thriving for where they wanted to do a lot of brainstorming, and they like to work together. Agile and Kanban boards are the great fit, I would say. For independent spirits, for teams where they prefer clear instruction, who wanted to be an individual contributor, waterfall or a similar structured approach might work wonders. And you should always know the pace. If it's fast and flexible, agile is perfect for projects with changing requirements or tight deadlines. For steady and sure, when you know this is your timeline and this is where you have to deliver, waterfall is an ideal one, where you have well-defined goals and a set timeline. You also have to consider the risk factor. When you don't have an uncertain, you have a lower risk, waterfall is better for projects, those with lower risk. And you have a clear roadmap, and you know when the story is already known, waterfall is better. For projects with high uncertainty, agile shines because you can test and iterate as you go. So, you should be ready to mix and match, right? You can do Scrum with Kanban. You can do Agile with few of the waterfall techniques. So you should be really ready to mix and match. And I would say waterfall, the traditional way, is still relevant for companies. For us, when we say for implementation projects, which is a year long, and you cannot innovate in the way the product is done because it's a different product and we implement, it's going to be waterfall. We cannot move from waterfall to agile. There are integrations and few reports that we say that we can try agile methodology, but it's basically a traditional one.
Got it. Thank you. So we got a basic about what is waterfall management, when to use, and what is agile management. But I think this also comes with experience on choosing the kind of management framework that you have to you have to adopt for a particular project. Like we have seen, there are project managers who have experience of, like yourself, Sintana, who has experience of 7 to 8 plus years under project management, whereas Ashika have started off she has around 3 years of experience in this. So I wanted to know how does experience bring in the factor here when choosing the kind of framework that you're going to plan for the project delivery, and how does the skills also comes in? How do you think experience and skill are interrelated, or they're totally different?
When according to me, experience doesn't matter, because it's basically you have to own the skills of, we call it as hard skills, soft skills, and industry related skills, right? Hard skills are those that are relevant to the project management, from budget management, risk management, negotiation, and project management, about the softwares and the tools. Soft skills, the interpersonal, the client facing, collaboration, communication within the team. And it's always good to have this is where experience comes into picture, right? Hard skills and soft skills, you can anyway gain it by reading, by training yourself, getting into a training. You can do it fast track. But industry skills and industry experience is where you will really need experience on. I would say you have to do into 2x of your the learning is what I would say. The reason industry experiences or the domain expertise is required, because you should know what are the set of tasks that you're dealing with. And the expertise will help you in setting the timeline. It will also help the team to gain the confidence, gain the trust from a project manager, right? So they should really trust me, because they should know that I have the domain expertise to categorize between the task, if it is complex or easy. So they should rely on me on whenever there is an escalation, or whenever there is a risk or uncertain or ambiguity. They should trust that the project manager will be able to deal with this. So that's where the experience comes into picture, which you can still gain when you grow. But experience doesn't matter, and when you are really smart, you can be a good project manager.
So before we go in a bit more deeper on implementations and deliverables, since Ashika, you work exclusively, majoritively as of now on Workday, and Sintana on PeopleSoft, if you could just explain your role, what you guys do for the Workday part and for the PeopleSoft as well, your role, and how do you cooperate with the entire team? Ashika, if you could go with Workday.
So basically, well, the title is basically Workday Adaptive Planning Lead, but that basically involves managing the entire EPM system. So with our organization, we have different models. So the company I work for is construction based. So they have different models, like a couple of them is like get into model where they go and they bid. So there's like a tender model where you go in and you pitch for your tenders, and then you have projects which are in construction. You have projects which you're going to forecast for in future that you're going to win and construct. So there are different pieces of it, and all of that planning and budgeting and forecasting is done within the tool. So we've got different users who are using the tool, and they come from different sectors within construction. You have like rail, you have building, you have infrastructure, you have major projects, all of those. And so we cater for different models, we cater for reports. End of the day, they want to see all their financial data, and we facilitate that through the tool. So we build models and we generate reports for them, which help them in their forecasting so that they can make better decisions, so that they can then cater for any future profits, future losses, and just cater for uncertainties as well. We definitely include that in our planning system as well, because obviously you think you're going to win something and you might not win. You might not win that project. So you've also got to cater for uncertainties. So we have a separate model that we cater for that as well. And then, and most our general day-to-day, because right now we're still building more models as we go. So our day-to-day tasks include like building those models, getting it tested by users, getting their feedback from them, and then changing the models based on their feedback and generating reports. So it's basically within that entire tool, there's also an end-to-end in it, like a separate life cycle of processes within the tool itself. So that's what we do, and that's the role, and that's what Adaptive is used for.
Right now, I'm managing projects, PeopleSoft projects. It's both PeopleSoft and Cloud Fusion. So basically, PeopleSoft is predominantly on the upgrade side. So we have customers PeopleSoft caters particularly well to industries like healthcare, higher education, and public sectors. So we have clients who wanted to upgrade from the lower PeopleSoft version to the next. So that's why we help in upgrading. So those include from their database migration, from their tools migration, and to the application migration. So it's mostly the upgrade projects that I'm dealing with, and who will have. My team will have both tech and functional, along with the admins and DBAs. So it's most about the collaboration within the team. And the other side, it's the Cloud Fusion implementation. So for those industries, the public sectors or the private sectors, the magnitude of the organization, if it's more, then they always choose cloud-based products, right? And for anyone who is already using PeopleSoft, they always prefer something within Oracle, so that they feel that they can easily migrate. So we have something called lift and shift, and there are other migration, the classic migrations that we do from PeopleSoft to cloud. So for cloud, it's implementation. Again, you have the whole set of technical and functional team, along with the integration and reporting team who work along with. I also, like Pramod knows, we are implementing Zoho for our company. So I'm heading that as well. There, I'm almost like a developer. I really enjoy implementing. So it's for our company, because I know what are we and what are the different departments, the dynamics of the company. I know clear. So I'm able to develop it. Starting from customization, reports, not much of customization, but yeah, enhancements, I would say, reporting, and then implementing from scratch is what I do right now.
Yeah, I think, yeah, pretty much a good bunch of information that you're giving, but also obviously projects have clients and stakeholders involved, right? So with specific to PeopleSoft implementation, how do you sort of make it with delivery targets? How do you use PeopleSoft implementations to make it more realistic in terms of planning it more realistically? And also, how do you keep all your stakeholders informed that yes, a project is being delivered, or it's in progress, or there is any challenges during implementation? So using PeopleSoft, how do you actually make people aware?
Yeah, not just with PeopleSoft. I mean, for any project management, keeping the client well informed is a key. That's when you gain trust. You have to be really transparent on your timelines, your deadlines, on the phases that you run. So, I mean, with PeopleSoft, it's a little easy because I feel it's the reason why PeopleSoft is still relevant, despite of having many cloud-based application, is because of its established legacy and stability. It's such a rigid product, many organizations, large organizations have heavily invested in it. So they already have an infrastructure, they have trained personnel, and they have all customized workflows in place. For me, it's very easy because it is already stable, and we have a project plan in place. Like I mentioned already, it's a year-long implementation, right? So we have the change management board in place. We have the testing team in place, and we will have the different phases of project management life cycle from development. We will have, I mean, you should really listen to the testing phases, right? We have all kind of testing in this 1 year time period.
Yeah.
So when you start with development, you will have a unit testing. We will pass it on to the client for system testing. Then you will have system integration testing. Then you will have the whole bunch of client for user acceptance testing. So that's where we have the challenges of when we talk about legacy, they also have a legacy. They wanted the system and data to be in a certain way, and it's very difficult for us to convince them to move from the old versus new. So they don't accept when we really do an user acceptance testing. They don't really agree for whatever the way it is right now. So we have user acceptance testing, and when there are new patches and new releases, we go for regression testing, and then just during the go live, we do a lot of smoke testing. I mean, when you move to production, we have to do quick checks. So those are called smoke testing. I feel these testings, these phases, are really the communication that we send to the client, saying yes, we are really in a good phase right now. Once we say we are closing the integrations testing, which means the client will also get to know that that 25% of the project is done, 50 is done, and 75. So these are the ways that we communicate that the project is going healthy and green.
Understood. But as you said, Sintana, that PeopleSoft is still relevant till today because of its legacy, right? And I know for a fact, as of now, you're mostly working on the health sector and campus solutions with education institutes, for that matter. So my question to you is, how is PeopleSoft still being relevant, even though if it has legacy and it has a strong hold in institutions and health, right? Mostly in institutions, to what I know. I want to know, how does tools as if like Campus Solution or Application Decider or Oracle Clouds, how does it stay still relevant, and why do you think institutions are not willing to get into cloud-based or on-prem based application tool? They're still sticking to PeopleSoft. So what is it that PeopleSoft is providing to these clients that they are still relevant? And do you think there might be some new upgrade that might come up in the future, wherein PeopleSoft might have to come up or pace up to the new emerging technologies?
Right. There were multiple discussions on this because especially where I am right now, the team where I'm right now, we do both Fusion and Cloud, Fusion and PeopleSoft, right? So my peers, my colleagues who are project managers, we always differentiate. We always talk how PeopleSoft was before and right now how Fusion. And the conclusion is we all love PeopleSoft. We miss PeopleSoft, I would say. I know if there are any PeopleSoft to cloud movers, they will definitely agree. The reason I would say, the first is the total cost of ownership is less. Okay, organizations already familiar with the system that requires less training and support compared to the adopting completely new platform. The cost is really less. Second is they focus on specific industries, like you mentioned, healthcare, higher education, and public sectors. So they have certain rules and the regulations that only PeopleSoft understands and addresses it effectively. The newer products that we have on the cloud-based application, they are very generic, more general purpose, and they really lack the industry-specific focus. The people, when we talk about PeopleSoft, they also offer high degree of customization, allowing the organization to tailor the system for their specific needs, which is right now very limited in the new ERPs. I've seen it and I've experienced it. There are a few ERPs where you can do zero customization. Whereas for PeopleSoft, you can do high degree of customization. Campus solutions that you mentioned, Pramod, I've been seeing multiple products and the cloud-based application for institutions and universities. There is nothing that could beat campus solution. There are universities and colleges and schools, of course. The county schools and the K-12 schools are still depending on campus solutions. How are they advancing? How are we evolving? If I can answer that question as well. They are in the ripe for transformation for AI and automation. Okay, you have something called student enrollment. Like if you want to enroll yourself in university, it is different in India versus US. Okay, so for student enrollment, we have AI powered chatbots, automated document verification, and predictive analysis for recruitment. For financial aids, right? Like in Indian terms, we call it as loans, student loans. So for we have chatbots for AI, the financial aided questions, the automated eligibility checks. So it's not required for you to sit in front of a person and then say, I am 12th cleared, I have 82%. They have an automated eligibility checks which can do all these checks through AI. And we also have recommendation engine for academic advising. So based on your career path or based on the percentage that you achieve, there is an automated or a recommendation engine which can run. And it can also say, this is your preferred career path. It can also recommend you for few courses. So other than this, they also have improved in the user experience way with NLP, which is National Language Programming Search. We have personalized dashboards and automated generation. So I would say this is why PeopleSoft is still relevant, right? It's still evolving. It's adapting to the new AI ML, and it's very much in the industry right now. And I'm happy that it is.
But Ashika, the question remains the same for you. What I asked for Sintana is how is Workday being relevant now to the clients? What emerging technologies are being catered to and adhered to as well? And where does your role come in learning, implementing it, and making sure that the client and your parent partner are on the same page and actually advancing to those new technologies?
Okay, so just being very specific to Workday, right? So so when I started off, this tool was basically a standalone tool, which then got acquired by Workday in early 2018. So from then, we have seen how the tool has progressed. So with the trends and with more users coming on board and asking for more features, we have seen Workday implementing those. So specifically what Workday does is that they have something called as a brainstorm board, which is just, we have a community called Workday Community, where all of us who are certified have access to it and all the clients have access to it. So you can go in there, ask them a particular feature that you're interested in, and if many users actually are supporters of that feature, then Workday actually works on it and tries to implement it. And so in that way, they tend to be on the trends. And now talking about even the recent trend of machine learning, I've seen that Adaptive has slowly started implementing that as well. We have a separate predictive model, which they are they initially released it about 2 years ago, and now it's definitely much better. As we go, it gets better and better. So they are trying to keep up to the trends, especially like machine learning, because in that way, at some point, you don't need to basically plan and forecast data. Just feed in your historical data and it will predict for you what your expected forecast should be. So Workday is doing all of that in terms of updating and keeping themselves very up to date with the latest trends. And coming to my role as to how I can help and what we do is, so every year Workday has 2 releases, one in March and one in November. So it's called R1 release and R2 release. So what happens is that this time is when they come up with the new features. And what we would do is we get the beta version of it to test. So we have a tenant which they give us, and then we can test those features. And if we, we can let our clients know about those features. And then so basically after March, Workday releases it like to all the clients. And then it depends on the developers if we want to implement it for our clients or not. And what the hierarchy or basically the communication between the vendor and the client would be through developers and project manager. So Workday that's their own way of working, where they have a customer success manager per client. So they have one person who just manages one client throughout the life cycle of the implementation. And this person is responsible for communication between Workday and us. So we go in and we tell them that, hey, this is the feature that we want. Is this something that Adaptive can do? And then they have a look and come back saying, yes, this is possible, or no, you have to wait for a certain release, or they'll be like, no, this is in our pipeline. So that's the way the communication happens. And what we do is when we know a feature is useful, we test it, of course, in our beta version. And then if we are happy, we have a demo run with the client telling them that this feature can do this. And then if they're happy, then we implement it in our tenants. So that's the kind of communication. Like I have worked with other softwares, but I kind of like the structure of Workday because they have like one dedicated person to the client who is always available. So they have people from different time zones as well. So the closest to us is like New Zealand time zone. So we get a person from New Zealand whenever we need it. So yeah. So their network is really good, is what I would say. Yeah. And communication is definitely the key.
Okay. Almost from what Ashika mentioned, right? Almost it seems like, especially with the way Workday is working with you guys, it's almost like having a personal tailor. Like so,
Yes.
you go in whenever you need changes, he kind of makes those adjustments you require, and then in case something new is required, he kind of implements. I mean, that's pretty interesting with the way that sort of relationship. It's pretty good. But I want to understand in terms of, I think Cynthia touched upon this point as well regarding the implementation of these tools, right? Obviously, there are different challenges when it comes to an internal client, internally as well as externally applying these tools. So I just want to get an understanding in terms of what is the actual challenges when you implement such tools internally, if you are implementing these tools internally, or if in case when you implement it in a client site. So what are the different challenges that you can have observed or have seen? So Cynthia, maybe you can start us off with it because you mentioned a bit about it in terms of implementation of Zoho within your own organization. So yeah.
So that reminds me.
Cynthia, before you start, just remember, we two are in the same team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just so, I mean, all weird experiences or the memories with the client is what I can see in front of me. It's very difficult. I mean, it's not as simple as what we speak, right? Training and end user training, and then getting a proper feedback of what they've got trained for. It's not an easy job. As a complete organization, they wanted to do a modernization. Right from their CEO, because there are different factors behind it. They might have a budget. They wanted to burn the budget. That's the reason they will go for modernization. That's probably one of the reasons. Or the legacy system
But wait, just to clarify, is this Zoho that you're talking about within your own organization? Or are you talking about an external sort of implementation?
External.
Okay, yeah.
So, or they will have the legacy system would be out of the licenses or the subscription, or the product itself is an outdated one, and probably that's why they are looking for modernization. So as a company, as an organization, they will be ready for this change. But those users, right, the stakeholders within the team, different departments, from the finance department to the transportation, with any, it's not very easy for us to convince. So when the organization to organization, when they talk as an implementation partner, we will say we are ready to do it, and then we can be done in a year. And they'll say the organization, when they wanted to start with this, they'll say, okay, we are also ready to take the new product. So when they both talk, it's all pink. The picture will be very pink. But when it comes to an execution, when it comes to the implementation team as a project team, it's very difficult right from the requirement gathering, because they will not have a technical team. Their technical team will be someone who can only look at the outlook and then just probably categorize it. They really don't have a technical team per se. Probably they have someone in the database team just keep checking the monitor and server inside a room. So that's the technical team according to them. But for us, it's totally different, right? So when there were I could even relate to one of those situations where I said, can you open a window? And one of my clients, she literally opened the window, which is there and next to her. And there were multiple times when we talk about processes, when we even talk about the window that just close it, they'll not be able to close it. So especially in public sectors, we have senior citizens there who almost would have spent 25 or 50 years in the current organization. So convincing them to adapt to the new ones, especially the cloud, the chatbots, they are not really comfortable. Exposing their data into the cloud, they literally feel it's on the cloud, right? Your data is on the cloud, so they don't really trust cloud. And these are the challenges we have. But it's interesting. That's when your negotiation skills, your different interpersonal skills comes into picture. When they trust you, they even trust your product. It takes a whole lot of time and your skill set to convince them, but it's interesting. It's good to do that.
And what about internally, when you do it within your own organization? That obviously you're more familiar with systems there, you're more familiar with the people involved, you're more familiar with the way things work. Do you think that sort of makes things easier, or do you reckon it makes it a bit more complex, or there are other things involved as well?
It's difficult everywhere, I would say. The reason here internally, it's taken for granted, right? Okay, so there is a team who is going to do the modernization and they will take care of it. So I know even after we went live with Zoho, I was requesting for our internal team to close the other timesheet, because I know even after we sending multiple flyers, the managers might have sent an internal communication. I know they will still go ahead and fill the timesheets there, their leaves there. I know this would happen. The adoption is a problem. We started getting into the Zoho footprints to see how many people have logged in. even after a month, there were 5 people who have not even logged into Zoho. According to them, Zoho doesn't exist. So it's difficult, but it's easy, right? Because anyway there'll be an arm distance sitting next to you, so that is going to be easy, and you don't have any cost involved in it. Because the cost is less when compared to the external one, and it's about the vibe that you create. We had to do multiple flyers and multiple different session. Even Pramod so there was the situation when we had something called Zoho Vault. That's a password management tool, password manager, sorry. So that's a licensed one. We actually bought it. We paid for it, and after 3 months of Zoho implementation, only 5 or 6 or probably 11 users have used it. So when me and Pramod, when we were discussing during our coffee chat, and we really felt bad of how can only be 11 users who have tried. Then we thought, okay, why don't we start with an session? Let's do a presentation. If we stick with Zoho Vault, I'm sure there'll be people who will get bored and they may not listen. So he started off talking about what password manager is about, and how it is to be hacked if you don't have a password manager. And he had a lot of facts and a lot of data for it. We even had a bingo game to have it lively, and it was it was a hit, Pramod. Our feedback, I would say, it was a hit, and to our surprise, and we had a lot of Zoho Vault users who subscribed for it. So all the stunts and circus we have to do to have our people do it, but the pain is there everywhere. Tejas, it's very difficult to convince people and then to bring them to the track.
Definitely. I think, yeah, once you, obviously, when you know the people you work with and you kind of know their day-to-day activities, challenges, and everything, probably implementation of that tool becomes much easier. And as you mentioned, I think educating them in terms of, yes, this is available and this is good to use. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, I know in case of Ashika, so with Workday implementation or within your own organization, obviously there must be different project management tools that you've been using. So how has it been? Have you ever been on the implementation side, or have you been on the user end of things where they have implemented on you? And what's your take on things?
Implementation of project management tools, or
project management tools in the sense like, have you implemented a tool within your own organization, or for example, have you been on the other end where a tool was implemented in your organization, then you were kind of getting familiar with it? So what are the challenges you had if you have had any challenges while implementing it?
Yep. I think I would say I've been on both the sides, where I'll start off with me being, one of the user. So when I was a user and when the tools were given to us, of course, like Cynthia said, that, there's always that resistance to change. But I also think that it also depends just on an individual and the generation, I'm guessing, because we are a bit more open towards change, so we don't mind giving it a go. But there've also been people who have been working in the organization for almost 10-15 years, and they like to do things the way they want to do it. So for them to be able to adapt to a new tool is very difficult, and they will probably try to give whatever reasons that they can to not open the tool, that it's not working, IT is not helping. They'll raise a ticket after 10 days probably with IT, and all of those things like that. So there is that resistance to change everywhere, whether it's internal implementation or external implementation, or whether you are at the receiving end of it. There's always that difficulty of using the new tool. But I think what we've always done is we've always given feedback, because after using the tool, we've always given feedback to see, to tell them what works, what doesn't, and whether that actually whether it's useful, that tool, whether even implementing it is going to help us or not. So I have been on that side of it. And when it comes to being the person who's implementing it internally, I think that, at least when you're implementing tools externally, there's that integrity, there's that diplomacy level that you maintain with your clients. But when it comes to internal, I've seen people, the diplomacy just leaves the room, because you know your colleagues, you know how they are. Because I've seen managers like argue with like unnecessary things. It's not even important, but because you're so familiar, you're so comfortable, like you just, I mean, the good part of implementing it internally is that you already know your basic requirements, because you know the insides and outside of your organization, what your pain points are. But of course, any implementation, like Sintana said, is a challenge, and it is all about communicating. So when you're doing it internally, I think the challenge is more customer relationships, or basically relationships between the team and the manager and the project manager. I would probably say that's been one of the main challenges that I have seen when it comes to implementing it internally. Because, yeah, like I said, diplomacy leaves the room and there's just more room for unnecessary things. So, yeah. So that's my take on that.
I mean, obviously, yeah, as you rightly said, obviously with each situation you got to adapt as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, you are the project manager, you got to take decisions, right? So I want to understand in terms of how do you sort of take data analytics into your project management decisions? Obviously, when there's data involved, and how do you look at it, and what aspects of data that you look into to make a decision? So maybe if you can give us an example and maybe run us through that, that'll be great if you can. So maybe Sintana, if you can start off with.
Yeah, data. For me to have the data, I should have the people to put in the data there.
Yep.
So that's where, yeah, okay. Let's consider the data is already there.
Yeah.
So we run dashboards. We run the graphs and the dashboards, which can tell what is the level of the progress that we are making, and what is the complexity that is involved, and how many tasks are completed, not completed. So we have this huddle meetings, the stand-up calls, where we get to see the percentage or probably run through those dashboards and the analytics that we see, and probably track towards that. So that's when you have to have your project management skills in place, where you tell people that this is your deadline and we are just half past it, where you only have 25% of the time left. So analytics, data analytics, and those. So we basically use Power BI. You should have those dashboards to talk both the positive and the negative aspects. So when I say these many percentage or these many tasks are done, you should always talk about how many tasks are left and how many are unpicked or unassigned. And that's when we will have the team say, okay, let me take 5 out of those 10, or like, can I also contribute? Can I also be part of the team who is ready to take the next set of tasks? So you should definitely have those graphs and reports in. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for you as a manager and for the team also to see where they are into. So, yeah.
Ashka, do you want to add something to that?
Sure. We use Power BI as well, like Sintana mentioned, and I think it's always important to give a holistic view of what's happening in your process, right, or your progress. So, like Sintana said, like the good parts of it, that what you've finished, and as well as the other parts of it where this is pending, or we had initially aimed to achieve this, but at this stage we've only achieved a certain number of tasks. So and I think we use a lot of Power BI to understand, and we also do a bit of modeling where we cater for. We have like an idle picture or the initial plan that we wanted to do using the tool and the dashboard, and then we cater to the current process, or the current status, and then we also cater to like the forecasting. So because sometimes initially we would have planned for the project to finish within 12 months, but then we wouldn't have catered for like say annual leave and public holidays. So we also do a bit of scenario modeling with the tool, where we kind of put in the number of holidays that we have, which basically reduces reduces the number of working hours, which then which increases the timeline. So we kind of use the scenario modeling. We use a lot of scenario modeling when it comes to Power BI, and we tweak the parameters to understand what our current state is and what our potential current state could be and what our future state is. So yeah. And of course, like Cynthia mentioned, we do have people who will feed that data in for us. And from there, we look at it. And as a project manager, our role is to constantly keep looking at it and updating. We can't just do it once and leave it and then go back at the end of the implementation and see. It's something that we check every day to see where it is. And, and it's also important, just to being a bit more technical, is that it's also important to like tie up that Power BI tool to your project management tool so that that can feed in what, instantaneously it can feed in the progress. So there's a lot of work involved in that as well. Yeah.
But this also brings me to what Tejas asked and what Ashika answered regarding the morale. These are not quantable metrics, correct? But this question brings me for the matter is how do you plan the risk management for a particular project? As in, once you start a project, right, there are a lot of combinations that might go against you. There might be times when you might have to swim against the flow of the river. So how do you manage that? How do you make sure that these particular the project is delivered on time, everyone is happy, and if, for example, if something comes up on the path, as for example, COVID was such scenario where no one was prepared, but we adapted. Most of the project managers adapted, so did the team as well. So how do you mitigate those kind of risk, and how do you adapt it?
Yeah.
Ashika, to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Do I go?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I think the right thing to do is, or rather, the first thing is to understand where that risk is coming from. So you've got to find the root cause of what has led for this scenario to occur, and then see what can be done to remove that risk and to mitigate that risk. For example, you take COVID, right? So obviously no one expected it to happen, but then we quickly adapted and we said, let's work from our houses, let's isolate. All we need is our laptop and internet. And of course, there were all the medical things that were done, and those who were tested positive, we told them to take time off. And so when we just sticking to that example, right? So that was obviously something we're not catered for, which means that you obviously are not in the best health to work. So what we do is we openly communicate to the clients that this is what our risk is, and this is what we are doing to mitigate it, and this is what we will do to ensure that we're back on track. So if people are sick, they take time off, and what we can do is try to get more resources to help the other existing team members and to like delegate small activities to them. So that's what we did, right? We got the grads on board to like help with the smaller, easier tasks so that the other developers can focus on getting more work done. So that's where you've got to, and also you've got to communicate with the team internally. Like if you're sick, or if there's, just sticking to that same example, right? So we just communicated that this person cannot work and who is okay to take up this person's tasks. And so that's what we kind of did to cater for that particular situation. And I think we would cater for any situation that way. We would understand where that risk is coming from. We would communicate that risk to the client and be very transparent. And we'll also have meetings with the team members to talk to them about the risk, and we'll also be open to understanding what the team members want to do to mitigate the risk. It's not just as a project manager, you go ahead and be like, okay, this is what we need to do to mitigate the risk. It's more about also taking in their opinions to be able to understand the best way that we can, mitigate the risk. And another thing, what we would do is we would also tend to look at what has happened in the past. We would look at people who are more experienced or who have, probably like been through such situations, and we learn from them what they did. We would all look for advice to see what they have done, because I know when COVID happened, there were generations in our team who also faced another pandemic before. So so they knew what had to be done. So they were just telling us maybe cater for additional time in your timeline and be open to the clients and things like that.
Got it. So adding into this point, follow-up, not a follow-up question, but something that I recently learned when I was doing a research is regarding citizen developers. So Ashika was mentioning that you bring in more resources to make sure that the project is done on time. If there's any risk or if there's any obstacle that you might have got. So I want to understand about this from you, Sintana. Is what is, first of all, what is citizen developers in a particular industry or in a particular project? And also, what is their contribution and how are they relevant in the project deliverable?
Right. So it's a new or the I would say or trending role, I would say, a citizen developer. So someone who is from a non-IT or a non-technical background, or someone from a different department who doesn't belong to the core department that we have. Let's say I'm from a technical department, but I have someone who's joining from facilities or from an admin. So they are called citizen developer. And this is one of a niche skill that every project manager should own, that if we have a citizen developer, or you should be knowing how can we utilize them, and then have a place in the team, and then how to effectively use. First, understand their skill set, and then appropriately place them. The reasons why you need to have them first is to bring fresh perspectives, right? The unique insights and perspectives inside the project that you have. This can be valuable for any project managers who may be deep in the project details. Citizen developer from the customer service department per se can also bring valuable feedback for the user interface, because he is in that department. He'll be able to help you in a user interface, the testing or the feedback of a new software being built within the project. So a fresh perspective. Second, they can also help what you and Ashika spoke about, is to address those temporary resource shortages within the project team. So you can have them use the low code or a no code platform to build internal tools and application that can automate repetitive tasks. Just for example, if you have an Excel, and if you're doing a repetitive task and you have a set of technical team who is already doing it, you can have the citizen developer create a macro or create a chart for the analytics. So you can definitely use them in that. And if they are good in executing tasks, you can have them as a taskmaster. You can give us a set of tasks that needs to be executed. You can have them collaborate inside the team and then execute it and probably report it within the team or to you. So the project manager should be able to set the stage for those citizen developers and then execute it efficiently. Yeah.
Understood. So there might be a chance that many of the employees or users, they might not know that they are also a part of the go lives that the team is doing. They might be doing their own job, but also it might be that somewhere down the line they are also contributing towards the go live in their own respective fields. But they are. This is what I have understood. Correct? I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
Understood. So Ashika, this brings me to the question of drawbacks of empowering these citizens with project details. Do you find or do you think there are any drawbacks or downside for this trends that we are having as of now?
I actually, yes, just thinking through, yes, we do have some team members like that. And it is a bit difficult when it comes to, of course, they've got a very creative thinking and they're very inquisitive and they want to build things on their own, which is really good. But of course, they've got to be certified in order to do that. They've all got to undergo that training. So we actually have this team member who goes in and just tries to mess up with the code because they're testing something. I mean, they understand a part of it, which is really good, but then they just try to go and do more things, which kind of makes us end up like doing a lot of rework. So we have had instances where we've had a couple of these citizens go in and break the code. I mean, we understand that they want to learn, and which is why we give them a separate learning tenant. But then still we have some who go into the production tenant and make changes, and that affects the entire tenant and the entire organization, and all the users are impacted by that. So we have had a couple of times where we went and we've done a lot of rework. We have had instances, and I think so. Yeah, there have been drawbacks in the sense that their curiosity kind of, there's a saying, curiosity kills the cat. So it kind of does that, where they go in and they do a lot of changes. Of course, it's not intentional, but then it messes up things and it leads to a lot of rework on our end, which means that we are spending more time fixing something which we've already built rather than focusing on things that we are yet to build. So we do have to cater to that, and we are answerable to the clients as well as to why there's that delay in the timeline and why there's a delay in like that particular feature not being ready, or if it was working, why it's not working. So that the project managers take the brunt of it at the end of the day, where we are the ones who have to communicate to the clients and tell them that this is what has happened and we're fixing it up for you and it will be up and running as soon as possible. So yeah, that would be one of the drawbacks. And with regards to plagiarism, I would say within Adaptive, specifically talking with what I do, there is not much chances of plagiarism because it's all just SQL codes, but codes which are catered to within the model. So unless you're building that model, you wouldn't use that code. So you can learn the basic functions, but with regards to plagiarism, there's not much of plagiarism when it comes to, people copying and using codes. Yeah.
Understood. So there are pros and cons for this, but eventually we do have to go with the trends, and I think it also it's a responsibility, individual responsibility for that particular citizen. They need to understand they are contributing to the project development, but at the same time they have a sense of responsibility to make sure they do not cross the line that is being drawn to them by the project manager or by the team head. So this also brings, since there are multiple projects that have been implemented and implemented successfully by you two, and me and Tejas might have been contributed to most of the projects in our own respective ways. Right, but we were just going through a few research papers and surveys, and we got to know that according to a recent survey that was done by Gartner, around $48 trillion amount of money is invested in projects, small or big, no matter might it be government or it might be industry, right? There are $48 trillion, but only 30% of them are successful. 65% of them are failures. And that is because of new advanced technology requirements that either the project manager lacks, or either the organization lacks, or either the project team lacks. So I want to know what is it that makes you stand away from a project manager, from the rest of the project managers, making sure that you do not fall under that 65% category, and you make sure that your project is delivered successfully and the client is actually happy with it. What I wanted to know your views, or both your views in general, on this. Do you think it's too much amount of pressure to the project managers so that they have to deliver it no matter how? Or is it does it take patience, and does it take a lot amount of skills to make sure that there might be delay, but the project has to be delivered in a certain way that the client had asked? So how do you stand in that 30% and not fall under that 65% of project managers' ability and technology advancements? Ashika, if you could go with it.
Sure. I think the first thing that I would do, or what I believe, and which makes me and my team stand out and helps us to have successful implementations, is communication and transparency. That's something that we highly regard, and we also consider the situations of a person's well-being. I know of late there have been a lot of topics about, well-being of employees, but it is actually a very important topic, because only if you have that interest to continue working will you be able to achieve your tasks efficiently, and you will be able to, we would as a team be able to achieve the end results that we have committed for. And I think as project managers, one thing that we need to make sure is that we're not over-committing and under-delivering. So we always need to cater for tasks, and we've got to cater giving them like a buffer time. So what I would do is, if I know I have to achieve a certain feature or like got to deploy a certain feature, we brainstorm how long it's going to take, who's responsible for the task, and we would ask them to give a rough estimate of how long it would take. So we would estimate that, suppose if a task takes about, say, 1 day to code, we would always cater 2 days. We'll always give them a buffer, because you never know what could happen in a day. Sometimes the code might not work. You think you know it and it will suddenly not work. So we cater for always a buffer in our timelines. And with those timelines, we are very honest with the client. So we tell the client that this feature will be ready at the end of 2 sprints. And within those 2 sprints, we have catered for that buffer. And we have regular check-ins. And if there's any blockers, we try to remove them. And that's where we get all these PM tools, which help us to see and track where each task is at. So yeah, and I think communication is something that helps our team stand out. And at the end of every sprint, because we work on sprints, we definitely have retrospective sessions with the clients and with the team. So it's not just that I as a project manager will have a separate call with the client and separate call with my team. It's all 3 of us together, facilitated by me, where we end up talking what went well, what could be better, what did not work, and what we can improve on. And then we have like regular check-ins. And I think this is where, it's very important to have a good customer relationship. So you have like coffee catch-ups, which is just like a semi-formal setting with your clients and semi-formal setting with your teams. We have something called as a coaching tree, where we just go out for dinner. The team members and the project manager, we go out for dinner, and, we just discuss about just their well-being, what's happening in their lives, and, how work can get done better. So it's like, you kind of like are seizing that border between professional and personal life a little bit, so that, like we know that they are doing well, like their interests are taken care of. So we have like a coaching tree activity so that we can communicate with them. And end of the day, what we have done has helped us achieve those results. And then we also have catch-ups with the clients, where we discuss the status and what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. So we have one with a formal setting, and we have one with like an informal setting as well. So relationships, I think, is what helps us stand out.
From technology point of view, how do you think the advancements, like making sure your team is there with you on the technology advancements of it?
Yes. So when we say technological advancements, we basically, so we have a lot of training sessions, which basically help them to show what the tool is and just to help them upskill as well. And what we do is, like I said, specifically to Workday, we get the releases in before. So with the 2 releases every year. So we just circulate. So when we say technological advancements, we can do, and we all cater to each team member. Each team member picks up what's interesting, which feature they like, and they work on that. And then we have a playback session. We have a playback session internally, where we are like, okay, as developers, we can do this. And then we have a session with the clients as well, telling them that this feature will be able to help you achieve this user story. So what we would do as a project manager is that we cater for 80% of their working time on the project, like doing their tasks, what's allocated to them. And the remaining 20% is for them to upskill and adapt to the new technology. So, and to also like come back with more feedback. So we basically have a career plan for them as well, where 80% is dedicated to tasks and 20% is for them to upskill and for them to learn new things and come back. Yeah.
Understood. Cynthia, your perspective on this?
So, she covered most of it. Why a project can go wrong, fail transparency and communication, communication and silos. These are the problems. apart from you having a poor leadership or the poor dynamics within the team, improper resource management. So on top of that, the tools basically one gray area for an employee experience is inadequate tools, right, and resources. So if you're not giving a proper tool for an employee, for a project team member to perform or to finish their task, and if it's set for them to do everything manually, that's when the dissatisfaction or the morale within the team goes down. So when you provide them with proper tools and resources, and then along with the training, right? If you're gonna say that this module is gonna be upgraded with an new AI or an automation feature, then you should be able to you should be having a budget, and you should be ready to train them in those aspects. You cannot expect them to just learn on the job and then execute it. You might not have time during the project timeline. So you should enable them. You should give all the resources and tools to enable them to work as per their satisfaction. So these are the keys when we say as a project team we have to evolve. These are the different factors that you have to give them as well.
I mean, it's pretty, actually, this both information that you guys are given, it's pretty much good for both of us, because obviously I am kind of starting, and then Pramod is probably a few years ahead of me. So it's kind of good information to know what actually makes a good project manager. But I want to touch upon that thing that he talked about in terms of AI. I know Ashika did mention this, especially with regarding to Workday, where they've actually implemented machine learning with respect to the tool as well. So I want to understand in terms of, I know from some of the research that we did, right? So we actually looked at where AI is potentially being used and what actually it could do. So one of the things that we observed was where AI was used to actually, in terms of, obviously, as managers, you're not micromanagers in most sense. You're not actually, you choose different time points to intervene to see how the project is going, right? So one of the things that we saw AI was helping project managers do is actually to know when to intervene and basically what sort of corrective measure they might use. For example, it could be that transitioning from a waterfall-based system to an agile-based system at that current point, because there is certain changes in requirements, or there's a delay or some sort of uncertainty in that sense. So that's where we saw AI being implemented, and also in terms of describing projects and defining projects where AI was also used. So in that sense, I want to understand. This is more of a discussion point, obviously, but I want to understand, with AI being there, could you say that the accountability of project managers is a bit less? Because obviously a project manager could always say that, oh, the AI tool is what is suggested me to intervene at this point. Could you say that the accountability is reduced with the introduction of AI?
No, because the AI is gonna suggest you or probably give you insights about with the data, but the data that is going to be there is to be fed by us. And even after giving the insights, the accountability or the responsibility of having those insights feed it to the system, feed it to our project team, is our responsibility. So it's still going to be there. And the efficiency of those insights we will need to analyze before we are going to put that in place. So all will the responsibility of using a science inside the project management, it's definitely be there. Of course, you have pros, right? You have your decision making is enhanced. The analytics, you have predictive analytics based on the historical data. You can even talk about the project delays, and you can be proactive in mitigating those. The communication is improved. The cons, we get to be the over reliance on AI is definitely there. Data quality issues, because you keep getting the same results again and again. The effectiveness of AI is highly dependent on the quality of data that is trained on, that we spoke about, right? Which can lead to misleading insights and poor decision making. The creativity is limited, and the problem solving is also very limited. You also have to do ethical considerations. The bias in training data that can lead to the biased AI outputs, you have to know when you have to stop it. And most of it, the universal problem is the job displacement concerns. If AI could automate many project management tasks, that can potentially lead to the job displacement, it's a problem, right? Because however, I mean, AI is it can augment the project management roles, but it should not replace them, which is happening right now. But we should balance it appropriately.
In some way, it comes back to that cutting out the middleman that you told about before. I mean, yes, I think what you said is true. Where obviously with AI, with more data, it actually learns from it. It will get better, but at the end of the day, it is up to a human being or a project manager to take a decision based on what he's observing. I think that's where obviously ethics and these kind of things, where you have fail safes involved in these kind of things. I'm pretty sure. I think as more AI is being implemented across different industries, right? There's going to be regulation. There's going to be different things involved as well. So yeah, absolutely. So what Pramod? I mean, obviously this is more of a discussion perspective. We still AI is, I think, not. To my knowledge, I think AI is not being. I don't know if it's implemented a lot in project management systems, or it is still very in a very sort of a nascent stage where it's just being tried and tested.
As Chinthana said, right, AI totally depends on data. Like if you see ChatGPT and Gemini, right, Gemini is updated every few seconds, so it has data up to 2024 today's date, right? Whereas ChatGPT has only data till 2021. So if you ask ChatGPT, who is the current Prime Minister of India, what is currently happening with the oil prices, or what is happening at the Red Sea, it will not have information on it. Whereas Gemini is having, at least it will give you a brief about it. Again, it all comes down to data collection and data upload. So if data is not uploaded, it doesn't work out, right? While we were doing research, we came across two very interesting cases wherein the French president is using AI tools to make sure all the projects that have been launched by the party is running on track. He has a particular, there's a wired conversation that we will put up in the post, the description, wherein he makes sure he uses that AI tool to make sure all his projects are running properly. They are up to date, and that all again depends upon if the members who are working on it feeds the data into that particular model tool, and that's only when the president can look into the progress of it. That's how it's happening. The same goes with Oracle bot. Oracle has released a new bot, data assistant, right? So wherein if Chinthana is a project manager, so she'll just say what is the status of this particular task. It will give you all the data. But for that, I need to feed the data for my task. So it all comes down to data feed and data upload. So people who are saying that AI might take away our jobs, no, at the end of the day, you are the one who has to actually fill in the data. You are the one who has the knowledge on how to feed the data. So you can't automate that task, right? There are a few areas where AI is not possible.
Before you stop, I want to try this one. There is in Slack, there is an integration, okay, that's called Pulse by Collective. So they are incorporating the AI features that can analyze the communication pattern inside the team, and it can also tell the potential roadblocks within the teams. So it can actually detect the sentiment in communication and alert the project manager for any potential issues, if it requires any intervening or any proactive measure to for a conflict resolution or a smoother communication. So actually the AI detects the sentiment. It also empathy, sympathy, all that it is. So I really wanted to try that.
Isn't
I
that a
think
bit
we have that in Teams.
Isn't that a bit intrusive as well? Like knowing all, going through all your personal communication.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, we should try that.
But I think we do have that in Teams, Microsoft Teams as of now. It is, I think it is speech detection or
Speakers coach, but that's actually a language. It will
speech
actually
coach,
say speaker coach or speech coach. It will talk about your fillers, how much you were active, any repetitive words, and your grammar and all. That is clear. But this is more of eavesdropping, no, of what they're talking between. Now, when I say get lost to my team, it's going to send a message to my project manager saying one person is going to get lost. Let's find a replacement. So that's interesting. Yeah.
I think already there are a few devices that we are using on day-to-day basis which have microphone enabled.
Correct.
Exactly. As soon as you want to buy, I talk about a certain product, you're already getting ads for that product. So it's like,
you might be discussing that with your brother or with your friends about buying a shoes, and the next day you see it on YouTube, buy this shoes, there's a sale happening here, there's a sale happening there. And even if you don't have money, you spend money somehow.
Just imagine for the next 1 week, we are going to have ads about project management and how AI is going to replace our jobs. Oh God.
We'll have service now, we'll have Jira, we'll have everything. Zoho mostly. You never know, Zoho CEO might just contact us that we talked so much about Zoho. But
what a generous work that you guys are doing. Thank you for doing.
But thank you so much. Truly, it truly means a lot. I think this has been a very great conversation. Our agenda that we had when we started off this podcast for this particular episode, we covered most of the topics. I think all the topics we covered. Before we end up, I just want to know if anyone wants to get into this project management, right? And aims to become a project manager, what should one do, and what should be their journey? If each one of you can explain in your own words and with the experiences that you have, it would be great. Ashika, if you could go first.
Yeah. So I think in order to, if someone wants to become a project manager, I don't think you suddenly become a project manager just because you do some certifications. Yes, the certifications will help you to understand theoretical knowledge, but I think you always need to start off at the bottom of the hierarchy where you're learning, you go through that process of like being a consultant maybe, and then senior consultant, then project manager. And while you're doing that journey, you keep learning your technical skills as well as, your soft skills. And you learn from your senior managers how they deal with situations, what to do and how to be calm during during unexpected circumstances. And you tend to basically shadow your manager. So what the process that I went through was, we basically, from the time you become a senior consultant to a manager, you basically are in that phase, which is like a shadowing manager phase, where you do have courses which you will learn, you learn about budgeting, planning, timeline, all of that. You enroll and you learn all of that. But at the same time, you start doing it with your existing manager. Like if you've got a task and you create your plans, and then you have that discussion with your manager who already has been through all of this and who has more experience and who will be able to guide you. And so you learn from that, and over time you keep doing it, and then you just keep getting better at it. So I would say that for anybody to become a project manager, you've got to go through that cycle where, you learn from all the perspectives. You learn as like a developer, and you also learn as a person who can manage skills. As in you can learn skills to manage people. And pretty much that's what would be my take on this.
Santana, what about you? What do you think are the critical qualities that you need to become a project manager?
All that Ashika covered. I would say when there is an opportunity, just go for it. Because when you are deciding that you will be taking up, you consciously know that you will do justice for the role that you're doing. So it means you should start doing it. You should go for it. Start with the small projects, with a small chunk of project, like she mentioned, like Ashika mentioned. You have to start shadowing, because there are aspects that involves money. There is a cost to it, right? And there are people involved as also. So start shadowing, start understanding the different nuances in the project management. See how your project manager is dealing with challenges. How are they tackling those situations, especially? So these are the things that you really need to start off with. And the certifications, keeping yourself up to date with the there is SAFe, there is DAT, there are a lot of certifications that are coming in on the Agile. And you should, like I mentioned, you should always be ready to mix and match between different frameworks and technologies. Be creative, always think out of the box, while following the traditional approach. So I mean, if you just read through those books, I have a pile of books here sitting next to me. So if you just read through those books, it's tiring. But people who are like bookworms, they will like it. But when you implement it, when you really see, you can read hundreds and hundreds of pages on how to solve a problem. But when you actually see it in the answer sheet, it's your presence of mind and your strength that will actually solve the problem, right? So same applies for project management. Be confident and always know what you're getting into. So, and then you can be a successful project manager.
Thank you. I hope people got a idea. We started from the scratch and then went a deep dive into technologies and trends that is happening, and how Sintana and Ashika are at a position that they are today with their experience, skills, and determinations. So thank you, Sintana, and thank you, Ashika, for being a part of the show. Hope you had a great fun. We at least had. Thank you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to more such episodes that we can shoot with you guys on different topics.
Thank you for having us. It was really nice having this conversation with all the three of you.
Yeah, same from my end. It's good to see you all doing things that you are passionate about. Keep doing it, because I mean, when we started our career, we didn't have anything of this sort, right? Mm-hmm. Everything was trial and error. If I fail, it's a big failure, and if I succeed, it's just my success. But right now, if someone succeeds, it's going to be a lesson for many people out there who's listening to these podcasts. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me here. And I will go advertise after this for your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.